get started. Like I've said a million times already, thank you guys so much for joining me. I'm so excited to be here and tell you guys a little bit more about Start Now, an event that Georgia Southern does to assist our last minute transfer students. I will get started and tell y'all a little bit about myself. My name is Miranda Ross. I am a transfer admissions counselor at Georgia Southern University. I am wrapping up my very first year in the profession. I graduated with my master's degree in May of 2020, a great year to graduate, I think. And so this has been a year of learning a lot remotely. And so I've been really blessed to be in this profession for the past year. But a little bit more about my background. I am originally from Los Angeles, California. I grew up by the beach thinking that I wanted to work in the entertainment industry. And so I went to Texas Christian University to get away a little bit. I got my bachelor's of science in communications, where I studied advertising, public relations, and film. That is where I started doing internships in the entertainment industry and realized while I was working with on-campus organizations that I just had more of a heart for education than I did for the entertainment industry. I was part of an organization called Circle of Sisterhood, which uses the power of sorority women to connect them to developing countries that need access to education. And that really opened my eyes not only to the education inequality that exists in the world, but also here in the United States. And I know a lot of that stems from the way higher education is set up. And so I decided to get my master's degree in higher education. After touring and attending a lot of interview days for a lot of different universities, I ended up going to Auburn University, where I did get my MED, and I was a graduate assistant for both housing for a year and then also with student involvement in student activities with leadership programs as well. And through my coursework, I really saw that institutional type played a big role in the types of students we were recruiting. And so while I was job searching, I realized that I wanted to work in admissions and loved Georgia Southern when I interviewed, especially because of everything that the university is and does for the students that it serves, which leads me to telling you guys a little bit more about Georgia Southern as an institution. So Georgia Southern University is an R2 high research activity university. It is a regional comprehensive university. We were founded as a teachers college back in 1906. And so to this day, the university as a whole really still serves like the southeastern portion of Georgia and some of our bordering states really heavily when it comes to majors and degree programs that are going to impact the local area. So teaching, nursing, engineering, things like that are kind of our biggest drivers. For 10 years now, we have been named military friendly. One of our campuses in Hinesville, the Liberty campus, is located pretty much right next to Fort Stewart Army Base. And so we do have a lot of students that are military veteran affiliated and also have dependents of military and veterans. And so we love that we can be military friendly for those students as well. And a lot of our transfer students do come in through that route. We are a D1 NCAA conference for athletics. And so south of Atlanta, we are the largest institution in Georgia, like south of Atlanta. And so with that being a D1 school and us being one of the larger institutions, we do serve a lot of students and have that big notoriety in the southeastern part of the state. And we do offer 141 degree programs across our 3 campuses, which are the Statesboro campus here in Statesboro, Georgia, where I'm located, our Armstrong campus in Savannah, and then our Liberty campus in Hinesville, like I mentioned a second ago. The way that we do admissions is not your traditional admission cycle. We are on a rolling basis, and so students can apply year-round. Pretty much our applications for the following year open usually around mid-July. So mid-July, we'll open all of our applications for 2022. So students can start applying really soon and get their decision usually within 6 weeks, depending on the time of year, how many applications we're getting. We have like a 2 to 3 week processing period for incoming documents. And so students can learn pretty quickly if they are going to Georgia Southern. And so this Start Now event really works because of the setup we already have in admissions with that rolling deadline. So our deadlines are December 1st for the spring, April 1st for the summer, and August 1st for our fall semesters. We do have like term B, so mini semester courses in all three of our terms. And so even students who might miss those deadlines, they still have a chance to enroll in some of those mini semester courses that begin halfway through the semester each term. So we really do like to do these events like Start Now to help not only boost enrollment, but really get especially transfer and non-traditional students in the best we can to classes as soon as possible so that they can really start their education when they want. A little bit more about our story. So the reason we even do Start Now and the reason Georgia Southern is excited about it is because of our consolidation with Armstrong State, which is why we have now the 3 campuses in Statesboro, Savannah, and Hinesville. This is an event that Armstrong State used to do before the consolidation, but it really carried over and has served our students really well. We did consolidate in 2018. We do have very different student populations on each of these campuses now. So the campus in Armstrong is kind of, you would see it more of like a liberal arts vibe, I guess. So it's a much smaller campus, around 5,000 students. Really beautiful campus, love the Savannah area. Versus our Statesboro campus, which is kind of your more traditional, we have 20,000 students here. That more traditional age freshman usually goes to our Statesboro campus, and then our Liberty campus is just a 1-building campus, which is great. But we do see different student populations on each of those, but we do serve transfer students on all of the 3 campuses. A lot of our transfer students from the surrounding areas do end up transferring. So we have great partnerships with Savannah Tech in the Savannah area, East Georgia State College, and Ogeechee Tech in the Statesboro area. And then a lot of our partnering, like the military base in Hinesville, as well as some of the surrounding local high schools in the Hinesville area, the Liberty County area, go to that campus. So we do really serve the local population. And so this event was kind of created for those students that are nearby and kind of made a last minute decision that they wanted to transfer, and we were able to serve them really well. And it started as an on-campus event, but as y'all will learn, and as you guys know, we did have to move virtual because of the pandemic, and so we have had a lot of challenges and opportunities with that, which is why I'm excited to talk to you guys about it today. And then we do not only do this just with admissions, we partner with a lot of our different campus partners across the campus and across all 3 campuses in order to make sure that the students are served adequately before they start, even though they are coming on last minute with us. Some of the campus partners that we have and who assist us pre-admission, we have obviously the admissions office. We will help them from start to finish. Our registrar's office helps us with any of those former students and any of those student records that we may have had previously. Our military and veteran services do also help kind of pre-admission with any questions our military and veteran students might have. And then also financial aid will help before kind of that enrollment process starts. And then after a student is admitted, we do rely heavily on our testing services and the Academic Success Center, SOAR, which is our orientation process. If a student wants housing, we've partnered with them to try to help get them housing, of course, advising, and then registrar for both of those registration pieces. And then what does it mean to start now? I kind of mentioned it a little bit, but it is or used to be a 1-day in-person event. So if a student registered for the event and applied at least 1 day prior to the Start Now event happened, they could apply for free. They registered to attend by campus. So if I wanted to go to the Statesboro campus, I would have to go to the event, the Start Now event on the Statesboro campus, and they would register and attend in that way. On the actual day of the event, the student would arrive anytime between 10 a.m. and 6 p.m. and they would go through the entire admissions and enrollment process on that day. So they walk up, we say hello, gather their application materials, get them their admissions decision, and kind of get them on to the next steps to enrollment and all of that. Their first step would be to meet with their admissions counselor and discuss their options. We would gather all of their official copies of their transcripts from the schools attended. With some of our partnering institutions, like I mentioned, East Georgia and OTC for the Statesboro campus. We did also sometimes accept unofficial transcripts, and accept students conditionally, knowing that they would send us their official transcript once their semesters were over. And then once they were through with admissions, they would speak to financial aid counselors to talk about those options. They would speak with any military and veteran staff members to help them along that process. They would then meet with their academic advisor and get registered for classes right then. If a student was maybe non-traditional or they had some learning support, they would work with Academic Success and the testing center to take the AccuPlacer exam so that we got them placed in the correct classes with academic advising. And then we would also get them registered for SOAR, which is Southern's Orientation, Advisement, and Registration event. And so like for the spring semester, for example, if a student was doing the Start Now event, they would get registered for SOAR and then come back for SOAR, the day before the spring term started, which was a really beneficial and helpful event, except COVID happened and we had to move to a virtual platform. We did really love serving those students. I know with the one-day event, we got to hear a lot of student stories that I hear still over the phone and over email, but really connecting with those transfer students that may not have known previous to the event that they wanted to go to school, heard about it, and then realized that it was an opportunity for them to enroll in a four-year university pretty quickly. And so, especially with transfer students and non-traditional military students having such unique situations where sometimes they get their military orders, or sometimes a student's family moves across the country and they want to continue schoolwork, but they're moving really last minute and still want to live at home. We're trying to help transfer students get into classes and still be on degree progress. And so we knew that the event was really beneficial for both of our campuses. It was a great rollover event between the consolidation, but we did want to move it virtually, even though we had a whole pandemic going on. And so we did the event for both the fall and the spring semesters this past academic year. So before fall 2020 and before spring 2021, we've done it so far. Not sure if we're going to do it in the future, but it's been great so far, so I hope so. Really what we did was we had to target our student audience a little bit more specifically. So before, we used to market the event to students kind of in the surrounding area, any students that had incomplete applications already and could have potentially come to the event. We really marketed it to, but when we switched virtually, we realized that it wasn't possible to be able to receive documents and work with students all one-on-one on one day. And so we really had to expand the event to like over a couple weeks span and really just prioritize students that wanted to, in essence, start now. And so we really marketed the event to students who inquired about the upcoming term. So if I was potentially a student on or a counselor on call, I would answer a student who maybe said like, I don't know when I can start, but I really want to get to school as soon as possible. I was able to tell them about the event, have them register online. And as long as they sent us their documents, which I'll talk about that in a little bit, as long as they were able to kind of get all of their application materials complete, we were still able to get them their admissions decision and get them on the process to enrollment before the next term started. And then we also really marketed this to students who had already applied, but maybe fell through our funnel a little bit. So they never turned in transcripts, or we had to follow up with asking for like a final high school transcript that they never turned in. We were able to kind of get them on a list, send them information for the event, and if they showed interest and still really did want to come to Georgia Southern for that really soon term, we were able to get them in that funnel and help them collect their documents in a little bit faster of a way so that they could still start when they wanted. Before I move on, I saw something in the Q&A, so I'm so excited. Oh my goodness, I'm so excited that you are the creator of Start Now, and so I'm so excited that y'all are here. Thank you so much for the words of encouragement. Moving on a little bit to our next kind of how we did the virtual Start Now. So like I mentioned, we made it an event that helped us prioritize students. So less of an event where students, came to campus or were meeting with people one-on-one. It was kind of like a registration to get their applications at the very top of our list. It let us know that they were serious about coming to Georgia Southern and that they wanted to do it last minute and that they wanted to come either for the upcoming term or for that mini master term that were right around the corner. And so when a student got any of that marketing information, if they showed that interest, they clicked the link, it would take them to our landing page, which looks just like this. You can see on the presentation, it had kind of the, are you interested in starting now? A little bit more about it. It basically said, we can't guarantee your admissions decision before that spring term A started or before the fall term A started, but we're going to do our best, and everyone who registered for the event was going to get a lot of contact, and we were going to check on their application more frequently than we normally would with our traditional funnel lists and pulling reports every day, like I'm sure all of y'all do. What they did if they went through the landing page and realized that they did want to start now, what they would do is they would follow the link and make sure they had already applied for admission. If they hadn't applied, or if they needed to update their entry term, we would help them with that in step 1. They would also need to submit their required documents. So on the right-hand side of my presentation, you can see that they were allowed to drop them off. We have drop boxes for official transcripts outside each of our buildings that we check every day and get them up to processing. We do prefer the electronic delivery. And so we did really, when we were communicating with students, let them know that if they ordered any transcripts electronically, to keep a hold on those confirmation emails, and that would really help us make sure that they stayed on the top of our radar. And then of course they could also mail them. However, they did need to be notified that the mail, especially during COVID, was a little crazy, and so they could expect longer processing time with the mail, which is kind of the biggest caveat we had between the in-person Start Now event and the virtual Start Now event, is that in person they could just give it to us right there and we can look at it, but virtually we had to wait for it to get to us, which sometimes took a little bit longer, which is why it was more than just a one-day event. And then after they had applied and submitted their official documents, they were able to check their status. We have an application status check page, I'm sure like every other institution does, where the student logs in, last name, date of birth, social security number, the last 4 of their social security number. And they could see what documents we were still waiting on. They could see any updates, still apply for scholarships if that applied to them. That page is also where they kind of do their next steps for enrollment. So registering for orientation, housing, all of that is on their status check page. So having this one landing page that our communications team came up with was really helpful to kind of navigate students back towards that as they went through the Start Now process. And then on the back end, this is kind of what a transfer counselors and the transfer team's view of the event was. So every time they registered, we would put them on a Google Sheet, Excel document that showed us who registered, how to contact them. And then we also had rows for how we were contacting them, any notes that we had once we received their transcripts, if their applications were complete. Once they were admitted, those were also shared with some of our campus partners so that the campus partners could also follow up with those students. So SOAR, that orientation, advising, financial aid, the registrar, academic success and testing also all had this sheet. So if a student was flagged that they needed the AccuPlacer, the testing services center would see that and be able to help reach out to that student and get them through that enrollment funnel a lot better. So from the counselor standpoint, every day during the event, which was about a month long, before the fall and before the spring this year, I was able to come in every morning, see the new people, see the students I had already been talking to, and really be able to connect with them throughout that and help them with their process. Continuing that counselor perspective, like I said, I would daily contact those new registrants. We would follow up with them each day regarding their transcript orders. So especially if they were sending them electronically, that was my favorite thing, because we could, search in Parchment or through the National Clearinghouse, especially with their confirmation numbers, we were able to locate and index those documents a lot faster. And so our evaluators and our processors, who I have the utmost respect for, some of my favorite people in this office, they were able to do their job even faster because of this document that basically just told us that students were ready to start now. And then I was also able to give them guidance on the next steps after the decision was made. So the picture example that I have up for you guys to see now is kind of just an example of that mail merge of how I would contact the students letting them know, like, we got your registration for Start Now. Let's finish your application. Let's do this together. And then letting them know that they could still sign up for virtual meetings with me, still stay in contact through phone or email, really hone in on that personalization for the students that were in my territory. So those transfer students on the Statesboro campus. And it was, I think, a really successful event. So some of those results, while we felt like we might have been hanging on during that month, we did have, these are the results for the spring of 2021 semester. We did have about 161 students register for the event. We had 96 students that were ultimately admitted, whether that was because they completed everything and were able to be admitted, or some students were not admitted based on our requirements. And then some students just didn't finish their application, so didn't send us those transcripts regardless of if they were being contacted a lot by counselors. And so 96 ultimately were admitted. And I actually went through recently and checked to see, if anybody was dropped for financial reasons or anything like that. But we do still, of those 161 registrants, have 60 of those students still currently enrolled. And so I do think without the event, we wouldn't have been able to get those 60 students in and out the door as quickly as they were, and get into those classes. And I wish I could follow up with them and hear how their first semester at Georgia Southern is going. But it really was a great event, and it was great to be a part of, I think, because it really helped me not only see what our students really wanted out of their admissions process, but because we do have the capability with classes, if classes aren't full, we still have that ability to get students in the door and taking those classes and kind of take those first steps to either getting back to school or transfer to the school that they want to be at, or do something that they are just excited for. So hearing their stories through that and everything was, it was really exciting. And then some other things to consider if you are maybe considering having that event or something similar at your campus, if that does kind of fit your institution type, if it's something that you want to do to serve transfer students and their unique populations. Some challenges that we did have with the event, it really was only effective with students who were active in the event. So if a student never followed up with our emails or our phone calls, never sent their transcript, the event was kind of a wash. I mean, same thing with the in-person event. If they signed up for the event and then didn't show up to the event, there was nothing we could do for them. And so that is, I'm sure y'all also have this challenge of sometimes students sign up for things and just don't respond, which is always going to be a challenge, I think. Follow-up is also a little more challenging. So when they're in person, we can quite literally walk them step by step through the Start Now event. But virtually, it's so easy for our emails to get lost or a student to just kind of give up on the process. And so following up was a time-consuming part of my job, but was really rewarding as well. Because a lot of these students are really last minute, kind of that month before the term starts, they can't receive financial aid in all situations. So for example, if you're a military and veteran student, you have to have 30 days before your GI Bill benefits can go through. You have to have that like class enrollment verification. And so sometimes the students who do want to start now can't always get financial aid, or the financial aid office can't verify things quick enough for them to be able to get that financial aid before their first semester starts. They register for classes really close to when term starts, like within a couple days. And so if a student's not prepared to pay their full tuition bill right when it happens, there is sometimes issues where they have to get dropped for non-payment, which is always a painful conversation. And then another thing we faced was a lot of students were excited that they had almost a guarantee of still being able to get their admissions decision and try to enroll before the term started. However, the classes, of course, are filling. Classes fill really early on with current students, and so transfer students don't always understand that we don't just hold spots for them, that we can only get them into the classes that are still available. They are not always offered in the format that they want. Especially with COVID, we did see a lot of students who wanted fully online classes, but didn't want a fully online degree. They just wanted to take those classes online for that term, since we were back to kind of a hybrid model of classes where we were in person and online. Sometimes the format just didn't work with what their schedule was, which I think we could also attribute to some of that melt that we saw from the admitted students to the currently enrolled students. But being able to go virtual did present a lot of opportunities for us as well. And that's why I think that Start Now is going to be such a great thing going forward for us too, and for any school that wants to do it. We did really get to increase our focus on those students who expressed interest. So any other counselor who might be in the room, I'm sure you pull your reports every day of who is applying to school, you want to follow up with them, and sometimes you just never hear back. But usually with the Start Now students, we were able to really increase that focus. So make extra phone calls, send extra emails, make those extra virtual appointments with them because they had, intently expressed their interest in the next term. And so it's something that I was excited to do because I knew that the students that were applying during the Start Now period were really excited to start at Georgia Southern. It wasn't just another one of their transfer options. They wanted to come here and they wanted to enroll. It also just in general increased our applications for the mini-mester. So some of our students who applied for Start Now and maybe didn't get in were able to get in for the mini-mester courses. And so we did see increased enrollment for that kind of short term that happened on the back half of each semester, which was really nice to see also, since we do offer those classes and we want to see the enrollment in those as well. And then just in general, we did see increased enrollment all around. And so even during the pandemic, we were really grateful that we did see an increase in enrollment for transfer students, especially because of their increased opportunity for access during this time. But that was really what the Start Now event was, a rundown of how we did it. But if y'all have any questions, I will be around. I know that was kind of short, but we have like 15 minutes for a Q&A if you want to. I know we only have the Q&A feature. I wish that we had a real Zoom webinar so I could see your faces and kind of see a discussion between the participants of, how this could potentially be done on each of y'all's campuses. But if y'all have any questions or want to see more of how we did this, feel free to ask any questions in the Q&A section. I can also follow up with anybody who wants me to after the event. But thank you guys for joining me so much. I loved having y'all here. Yeah, LaShawn, thank you for your question. I will drop my email in the Q&A so that you guys can see it. Let me type my answer. My email is mross@georgiasouthern.edu. Okay, there we go. Hopefully y'all can all see that. Feel free to follow up with me directly. You can also call me or set up a virtual appointment. My information is on our Admissions Meet the Team website. I love getting virtual meetings, so feel free to also pop in. We can create a Zoom meeting together if you want to talk more about Start Now. I was really lucky that I was even able to get a job during COVID, but that we got to really dive in with some extra enrollment things during my first year since there was less travel. Heather, I would also love to see a smaller scale at Allen University. If y'all ever need help with that, feel free to ask any questions we have. Thank you for your warm wishes. Oh, wow, y'all are so nice to me. This is making me so excited. Leslie, thank you so much. I love some more first timers also in this presentation. Florida Southern College does sound like a great place too. I love Florida. And so I'm glad that you also work with transfer populations moving over from high school. So thanks for coming to the presentation today. You guys are just the best.